Paperny, want to share a story from a talk I gave earlier today. I contributed to a class at the United States Courthouse with pretrial services, and the name of the course is Keys to Successful Incarceration. For some background in federal prison, my business partner Michael Santos helped create this course with a pretrial services officer in Los Angeles. And since Michael had a few more years to serve after my release, Michael introduced me to the pretrial services officer with the goal that I can contribute to the course upon my release from prison. So since 2009, I visited the courthouse 2 or 3 times a year to share my wisdom to defendants on pretrial and who soon will cross over into prison boundaries. In other districts as well, I believe from Santa Ana, Orange County, other areas, dial in or through a video type conference can listen to the presentation. So earlier today, I visited the courthouse in Los Angeles, and before my presentation, there were some executives from Lompoc Prison, including the case manager, the counselor, the warden, and the assistant warden. And they were talking about life on the inside, what steps prisoners can take, or they call them inmates, what steps inmates can take to have a more productive experience, and so on. At the end of their presentation, and before my presentation, I asked a question that I know so many of you have always asked me, which of course it should interest you. How do you get maximum time in the halfway house? I get a lot of emails and texts about, Second Chance Act. Can I get a year in the halfway house? Can I get 6 months? So I asked the warden and case manager, how could a prisoner get additional time in the halfway house? And really, is it objective or subjective? In other words, could a guy like me who gets 18 months get less time in the halfway house than another prisoner who also has 18 months? So I asked these questions to the executives at Lompoc, and we all just sat back and listened. Now, the case manager spoke first, and she said to me, Justin, you have to understand everyone has different circumstances. So yes, it is subjective. And I told her a little bit about my background. I was 33 years old when I went to prison. I was educated with a degree from USC, and my pre-sentencing investigation would give all of that away. Further, I had weekly visits in prison. I had a home to return to. I had resources. So if you look at my profile, according to her, and I can understand it, I might not need as much help in the halfway house as another prisoner who also might be 33, but as she said to me, Justin, he might have been homeless before he came to prison. He might not have his high school diploma, or he might have just obtained his GED. He might not have resources or the adequate skill set. So someone like him, if bed space is tight in the halfway house, might need more time in the community. So yes, it is certainly subjective. So I asked the warden, well, what are some things that will immediately shut down any request that someone has asked you for more halfway house time? What is a definite no-go? And he said, well, there's a few things. One, I'm going to look at their file, going to look at their request and see if they have any disciplinary infractions. And I said, well, that's pretty obvious. And he said, well, you'd think, but so many new prisoners engage in the hustle, make bad decisions without considering how it will influence the rest of their life. And they're new in this culture of confinement. Perhaps they try to twist it to their advantage. And one disciplinary infraction can derail your whole prison journey from going to the hole, but also impacting what is one of your highest values, of course, which is getting home more quickly and safely to your family. So he said, any disciplinary infractions, it's a no-go. Second, he told me, I want to see that they're involved in the community. So I want to see that they're following the advice that comes from their team meeting. As a reminder, a team meeting is going to happen a few weeks into your prison term. You're going to be with your case manager and counselor. They're going to look at everything you've done since your surrender. And then they're going to create an action plan for you in the coming months. And to the extent that you can implement the action plan that they give you, whether it's programming or educational classes, to the extent that you can implement that, the warden told all of us, you increase your chances for more time in the halfway house. He said, I want to make sure they're ready to go home. They're ready to be law-abiding citizens. And if they're not engaging in disciplinary infractions, and if they're enrolled in education and developing a new skill set, it shows me, they could be worthy of additional time. Some logistics, he wanted to make sure they had their Social Security card on file, their birth certificate on file. So, in going through this conversation and back and forth with the warden, I asked him, and then he turned it over to the case manager. I said, if an inmate walked into a team meeting with a letter from an employer, Would that help or hurt them? And I knew the answer, but I wanted everyone to hear, because the justice system is sort of like inverted or twisted. Much like your pre-sentence investigation, the more you open up and purge, or if you have a proffer, the more you open up and purge about your criminal conduct, the better treated you get. It's strange. I share this because some defendants think if they walk in with a letter that says, here's a letter from an employer, and I have a start date, and I need more time in the community to start this job, that it's going to lead to more halfway house time. But based on what I said a couple of minutes ago, if you have an employment opportunity, and if your PSR states that you have resources, or you're educated, or a home, and just you have a different DNA than many of the other fellow prisoners, that employment letter might not necessarily help you, as crazy as it seems, because if bed space is tight in the halfway house, they might give it to someone that doesn't have a job. Why? Because they need time in the community to leave the halfway house to actually go get a job. Now, I said to the warden, I said, well, I believe in, helping. I believe prisoners or inmates should take matters into their own hands, to document to all stakeholders that they're worthy and better than some of the bad decisions that they've made. To that end, what if an inmate articulated through personal narrative why their PSR at the time might have been correct, but now, since then, after all, some of these PSRs are created years and years ago. Life changes after you go to prison. Circumstances change. So in explaining that, I said, what if they articulated the changes in their life, the devastation financially, their ruined reputation, the fallout from their crime, the financial devastation of not being home and earning money. They could articulate educational programs that they've enrolled in, how they're following the advice of their case manager, how through their own efforts they're asking for additional time in the community. So certainly that would impact me. Of course it would. So let me close with a couple of takeaways. I understand you want to get home sooner. We all do. They initially told me that I was going to have 45 days in the halfway house. At the urging of my partner, Michael Santos, he encouraged me to continue to adjust well, to attend classes, to lay low, to avoid disciplinary infractions and drama. And then I wrote a letter and articulated to my case manager and counselor why I needed more time and why my life years ago was measurably different than it was now. They granted me an extra 45 days. I got 90 days instead of 45, which was significant. And they also gave me my release date more than 6 months in advance of my release date. So I got it 6 months early so I could really plan. I said, okay, today's November 19th, 2008. They just gave me my release date of May 20th, 2009. Now I can sort of reverse engineer my way back and say, what do I want to do each and every day until then? I wrote a daily blog. I was writing my book, Lessons from Prison, and so on. I can alert my network. I'm coming home. These are my plans. And of course, I was lining up employment opportunities while in prison. So when I transitioned to the halfway house, I was, boom, out of the halfway house like 14 hours a day within just a few days. Make sure you don't complain if you don't get as much halfway house time as you'd like. Everyone has a different set of circumstances. Some of the people there have had endured heartache that some of you watching could never fathom. So if a fellow prisoner who has the same length sentence as yours gets additional halfway house time, be happy for him. But if you're not happy for him, just don't complain. Do not complain. Do not talk about it. It doesn't bode well. Some of these lessons, some of these thoughts I heard today I thought were really valuable. I wanted to film this video and share it with you. So be proactive. Enroll in programming. Avoid disciplinary infractions. Write that narrative to articulate why you're worthy of additional halfway house time. And be grateful for whatever time you get, because frankly, you're not really free till the sentence is over anyway. To learn more, you can visit rdapadvice.com to get a free copy of my book, Lessons from Prison, or federalprisonadvice.com. Thank you very much and work hard.